So there's an interesting point I want to make too, because I think, you said something early on about how we do need to come together as a society. And I think the story of Deming is really important because Deming discovered some amazing things in the 1940s. And if you really do the research and look, Deming then went to Japan and helped them create that system, and in the 70s, 80s, and 90s just whooped our butts with it. And the funny thing is the guys like Lee Iacocca stood in front of Congress and said, it's this cheap Japanese labor. And Deming was going, nope, we pay like 20% more than you guys do. Like it's not cheap labor. Like we pay more than you do. They guarantee lifetime employment in those Japanese factories after the 1940s because of the war. But here's where I think there was a breakdown in our society around Deming's ideas and solutions. These guys came back from the war, victorious. Thinking that command and control, which is the way the battlefield is run, was the solution. So guys like Jack Welch really adopted that, and Drucker, and they really went forward with this command and control mentality. And there's not a lot of writing about it, but there's a few different articles talking about Deming and saying his ideas are Marxist. These are communist ideas. And that was really popular. Like right in that late after the war, everybody was so worried about communism, where people were like, this going down to the front line and like talking to people and empowering them, that sounds a little bit like the Russians. And then, he goes to Japan. In Japan, he's embraced because the Japanese are defeated. They know that their system doesn't work. They're like, we just need a new idea, right? And they're like, this is the guy who figured out how to whoop our butt. He probably has some good ideas. And fortunately, guys like Teiichi Ono are there at the time, and they all start to work together and realize that they could build this incredible system together. But it's sad that the idea was really rejected here from an undertone around communism and Marxism. And now we look at that today, where we focus on culture and we're servant leaders, and we can look back at those lessons and we can go, that was just plain common sense, right? It wasn't Marxism, right? It was just common sense. But listen, if I'm a general and I'm coming back after the war and I don't have a job anymore and I'd like to get a CEO role, command and control is my method, baby. I yell duck and you do.
And I think that, I'm 67. And one of the things I've learned in recent years that I never knew is that, at least this is a teaching by some, I heard it from Danny Silk first, that there are two major emotions. There's love. And what do you think the opposite one is?
Hate, I've got to think, right?
Yeah, you're close. But the opposite one is fear.
Fear. You know what?
Hate comes from fear.
I got it now. Yeah. It's love.
Anger comes from fear. Racism comes from fear.
All of it comes
Bias comes from fear. So when I hear you talking, I'm hearing that, there was a lot of fear back then, and fear drove some very bad decisions. And really in recent years, in recent years, I've come to the realization, and I won't go into the story why, but I've developed what I call good cop leadership style. Good cop, bad cop negotiation style. Sure. All right. So, there's nice cop, just like, hey, I'm going to take care of you, work with me. If not, I'm going to turn you over to my partner who's going to break your kneecaps. Yeah. So what I teach is that anybody in the organization, it is a leadership approach, but anybody in the organization and in life can do this. And it's very fulfilling and meaningful, is that you're always the good cop. But the bad cop is we can't break policy. We can't break the law. If we do that, the product will be late. If we do that, we don't live up to our values. Rarely a person.
Yeah.
But the key, if you're a good cop leader, that those guys didn't know coming back from the war, was that the boundaries have to be firm.
They sure do.
But you always blame it on something else. Like, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I want to help you, but I can't.